Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. In this podcast, topics will be discussed that promote the daily management of life. While this information is meant to supplement your journey towards healthy emotional well-being, it is not intended to take the place of seeing a licensed mental health professional. I am Dr. Robin C. Wiley, a licensed clinical social worker with a private therapy practice in New Jersey. Thank you for joining today's conversation. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This is Dr. Robin. Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. I know it has been a while. It has been a while. And so I thought for today, because we're coming back and want to, of course, our mission is always to share information and to help individuals to be well, be great, and be themselves, and to provide information to help us to get to that destination. So I thought today we would kind of start with like a check-in. I've done a podcast before on the purpose of the check-in, the value, and the importance of checking in. And so, but I thought today we would check in and kind of look at what season we're in. First, let me say hello, Bryce.
Hey,
Bryce is back with us, of course.
It is Bryce. I meant to tell you that. I apologize. I am now Doc Bryce.
Yes, Doc Bryce.
That's right.
It's Doc Bryce.
Which is crazy because that was my nickname as a kid.
Oh, okay, it was Doc. Okay, yeah. I have a nephew who they call him Doc too.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because he's always been quite studious.
Oh, well, that wasn't why I'm called Doc. I can tell you that right now.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a story. Story for another day.
Exactly.
So we're back. We're back on air. We're going to try to do some different things. I'm always trying to get this back consistently. But, I have to say that, this is kind of what prompted me to want to talk about what season are you in, or for us to think about what season we're in. Sure. Because, we all go through that. And of course, we're changing seasons like literally.
All the time.
Literally we're changing seasons.
Right.
Kind of we're in spring, but, and then going into summer, what have you.
Right.
So, it's a little lighter outside. We can be outside. We feel probably a little bit more upbeat with doing things and that kind of thing. But it's always a good time to check in with ourselves to see where are we? Whatever that looks like.
Right.
And where do we want to go? You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes we have to take inventory of what's going on in our lives. There may be changes. There may be confusion. There may be conflict. There may be bigger things on the horizon. There may be decisions to make, all types of things that can just cause us to sometimes, stand still, so to speak, and have to kind of take it all in. It can cause possibly some stress for us. It can cause us to feel sometimes even in a state of panic.
Right.
And so I think it's important for us to navigate those waters. And so we're going to talk about that today. And as I've been talking to friends, clients, colleagues, a lot of people have been bringing up this is my season, or the season that I'm in, or I wish this season would be over. Right. And so using that term, which I think is a pretty good term to establish and to it covers kind of I think a broad amount of things, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of what's going on in our lives.
Right.
So again, where are we? Asking yourself that, where are you? Where am I? What's going on with me right now? Am I pleased with that? And where do we want to go? Where do we need to go from this point on? Okay.
How we're moving forward.
Right. How we're moving forward. Okay. And so I guess, I'm not going to define because I don't really know what season I'm in. I will say that. I know it's some different seasons. I'm definitely in a different season, as the seasons change. But I think, it's more about we have to define that for ourselves and kind of looking at, are we in a season that we aren't pleased with? And is there a way to address that?
I think that, see, all right, so I can just tell you with the season I'm in, right?
Okay, all right.
So I think that I look at things as like building something, right? So I think that where I might have had like a building.
Okay.
And now, unfortunately, Hiroshima came. So the building's been knocked down. Mm-hmm. So now that I cleared away the rubble, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's starting to pour. So I'm in that season of pouring the cement.
Okay, you're pouring the cement.
I'm pouring the cement.
So you're rebuilding.
To start to build the foundation. Because many of us, sometimes we are quick to build and then we build on quicksand without really realizing that it's quicksand.
Right, your foundation's not good.
The foundation's not good.
Yeah,
so I'm pouring this. That's where I'm
everything. Because when you build a foundation, you also have to have a structure to hold the foundation.
You have to. So I think where I'm at now, I'm pouring the cement. That's just where I'm at.
Okay. I definitely like the metaphor. I like the way you did that. Like I said, I'm kind of, I know I'm in a season. I know that for sure. I know this for sure. And I think, even though, of course, I'm a therapist, sure. I, do a lot of different stuff or whatever as a professional. But, I'm still human.
Right, absolutely.
Still a person. And so just like many of our audience, who may be in our same field or may just be folks that are just listening to us, what have you, with no counseling background whatsoever.
Right.
We all go through things in our lives. And so I think, we have to think about it in terms of, and I know I'm saying think a lot,
sure.
That it can be a period of growth. And I think, the season that I'm in, the different things that are going on in my own life, I try to keep that in mind, is that remembering that growth certainly can include some discomfort. And
I promise you, this is not a shameless plug that I'm trying to plug myself.
No.
But it's just something that I'm actually working on a series, and it's called Comfortably Uncomfortable.
Okay, I think, yes. We talked about that, how that idea. Because,
and that's what you're describing.
Yeah, because that's the thing. So you think about growth, you think about when something grows, it has to kind of break through something for it to grow, for it to fully grow.
Right.
And I think even for us as individuals, like it gets hard. It's not always, and it's definitely not comfortable, and a lot of times we're very focused on wanting things to be comfortable.
To be very comfortable. Absolutely.
And I think keeping in mind that it doesn't necessarily have to be bad, because the change or whatever's occurring with you does not have to be a bad thing.
Right.
It could be something that's actually really good and good for you. But sometimes the unfamiliar is uncomfortable.
Right. And then also, I think there's still like a space there of you're not seeing the forwardness.
Right. The unknown is uncomfortable.
The unknown, because
the unknown is uncomfortable.
Right. I may think like, so for instance, like I stopped smoking cigarettes, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I could see, down the line, that's a good thing, right?
But in the beginning,
I'm very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a vice. So something that so even though it can be something, I think that's a really good point. Even something that is not necessarily good for us, and we know it's not good for us, but it has become part of
who we are,
our habits.
Yeah.
Right. It's a habit for us. It's something that has offered us maybe comfort.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so as a result of that, we're like, well, wait a minute. Now I got to get rid of this because of the fact that it's not serving me.
Right.
And that's the thing. Right. So that can be people, places, and things. Right. Okay. As they say, that can be people, places, and things
and all
that
people,
are not serving you.
All people. Even that can even include family members.
Oh, yeah. We're not discriminating. No, it could be anybody, anyone. Right. People, places, and things that are not serving you, that you then have to sort of, for you to grow.
Right.
Okay. For you to grow, for you to embrace something different in your own life so that you can then maybe move into a different season, possibly.
Right.
You may have to remove those things. Right.
That's the unfortunateness.
And that all can be uncomfortable because a lot of times it's difficult conversations. It's like you said with, giving up a vice, giving up something that offered you comfort, but it's no longer serving you. It's not good for you.
Right.
So therefore you need to get this out of your life.
It's gotta go.
And so you've got to go through. So that kind of breaking ground, as I like to think of it, that breaking ground is all that time that you're like, this doesn't feel good.
Right.
And also, too, the feelings that we have related to it. So let's not leave out the feelings, because that can be what is the toughest part.
Right. No.
Is the actual feelings. It's like, oh, my goodness, like I am, uncomfortable. I feel these things that I haven't felt before, that I don't want to feel, these maybe negative, adverse feelings, whether it's, fear, whether it's worry, whether it's sadness, because there could be loss, and even something that has been good for us, or we thought was good for us, when you have to remove it because it's not serving you. So let's just say that, because something can be good for you, but it's not serving you.
And I think,
and I know that's contrary. Let me say this, because I know that's contrary. Something can be good for you. Like, for instance, smoking a cigarette is not healthy for you, but it may have provided something for you that now
some
you
type
have
of
to
pleasure.
replace. Exactly.
Some type of pleasure.
So that's what I mean. Something that is good for you, providing you with some type of pleasure, but it's not serving you because in the long run, it's not giving you what you really need.
Yeah. And
so
that's it. Those are tough things to think about, number one.
It is.
But it's also tough things to do.
It is tough to do.
And that's again, to me, I think that's the hardest part, where you recognize, okay, you know what, there's a leak in my boat, and I know I have to address it. But it's tough to address.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know
and I'm not saying that, and I don't think it's easy for any of us to to deal with any of those things. It's not easy for us. That period of growth, I think, I kind of want our audience to kind of look at with certain situations, again, going back to the season, that, that season can be uncomfortable. That season can encompass things that we need to do differently, how we need to approach things, how we need to view situations, whether it's, again, taking people, places, or things out of our life. But it can be a period of growth. And a lot of times it is necessary. It's necessary. Okay. So we have to think about it that way, because seasons don't last forever. And I was talking to a good friend of mine earlier today, who had expressed to me, which I thought was something that was really profound, was that, things that we may go through are temporary. And so it kind of was like something I needed to hear, because when you're in something, and, we have so many people, I have clients, friends, people that are going through stuff. So many people are going through things, and they're going through things in silence. They're not talking about it. They may not have a support system or what have you. They're going through a season that is not pleasant. Okay. And, they may be checking in with themselves. They may be having conversations with themselves, whatever, but they may not, because a lot of times we don't feel like we can share our situation with somebody else.
Yeah. We're scared or nervous about that level of vulnerability.
Well, it can be, or a lot of times we just are like, you don't tell people your business. It could be about sharing your business or what have you. And so I think, the idea of checking in with yourself is certainly helpful, but also making sure that if you need support, if you need to be able to talk to somebody, to share things with someone, that you're doing that. Whether that is a professional, a therapist, a counselor, what have you, or whether that is someone that you can trust with that information, that this person that you can be vulnerable with. So I think that's on that level. I think when it's, because again, like I said, people are going through things. Absolutely. People are in different seasons. I've been hearing it, I think, since like the beginning. I think we went into 2024, and we're always kind of, I think when we go into a new year, everybody's like, oh, it's the new year, da 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 da. And I remember, like, before the end of January, people were like, okay, I'm going to need 2024 to do a reset. People were literally like, 2024 is not coming in well. Like, what's happening?
But they were excited for it, though, when it came.
They're excited for it, but it still is about, but then, things happen, and we're not really ever, I don't think we can ever really prepare ourselves for when we have some changes. You know,
No, I
not
don't
like that. Because even if the change is good, we still don't know how it's going to impact us. And I think going back to what I was saying earlier about the feelings piece of it, because
Sure.
I think that's where sort of we get into the weeds of it. It's like,
Sure.
what is, my thought process, my feelings, whatever is occurring, that's the part that can kind of take us off of our trajectory or off of our place match, so to speak.
Right.
Because that's the part that gets tough to deal with,
Yes.
and it can be internal and it can trigger stuff for us. There's a lot that can come up for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 3 things.
Okay.
3 kind of things that I thought about when I was thinking about this topic. And I'm like, well, because I always like to give some strategies and some coping mechanisms or what have you, and sometimes, that can be very helpful, I think, if it applies, because a coping strategy that I may come up with is not necessarily going to apply to everybody.
Right. So that might, yeah, right. I got you. Right.
So, but these are kind of 3 concepts that I thought about in relation to seasons and the changing of seasons and checking in to see what season we're in. So the first part was, and I probably should have added a 4th because it probably would have been more of acknowledgement.
Okay.
But acceptance
was
like the first thing. So, but I think before that, there probably has to be acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Acknowledging what's going on with you.
So acknowledging that you're in a particular season.
Right.
Okay.
And defining kind of like what that season is for you. Whether that is a season of, and like I said, this is not necessarily doesn't have to be negative, but sometimes, whatever changes we're going through, they bring up some emotions, they bring up maybe some insecurities, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so being able to acknowledge what actually is happening, because that's a big step.
I think that's
a big step.
One may say it might be the first important step.
Right.
Because it's like, especially when you see it in like people that unfortunately have negative coping skills like drinking or drugs or whatever the case may be, you have to first accept that you have a problem.
Yeah. Or that how you're dealing with this.
It's an issue.
Or how you're dealing with something is not really
working.
the
right way to do it.
Yeah, it's not really the right way to do it. So the acknowledgement is key.
I think it is.
The next thing is the acceptance.
Yes.
Okay. So an acceptance may not be a natural response. It isn't, because a lot of times when something happens, we almost want to go the other direction, which we'll talk about that in a second, which is avoidance.
Yeah. No, true.
So, but the acceptance piece, and I'm not saying that, because avoidance is a part of this, because that sometimes is a more natural response. But the idea of the acceptance of what season you're in, what's going on with you, because, and like I said, it's not always a natural response, but often it is a necessary response.
Right.
Because as many of these things are outside of our control.
Right.
So sometimes the things that are going on with us or that impact us, they don't have anything to really do with us.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it could be about what's going on with somebody else or what's going on at work.
Sure.
Something like that. So it impacts us, but it's not a lot that we don't have control over it.
Right.
You know what I mean? We can't really.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying about sometimes it's an energy thing. Is that kind of like what like somebody's like sometimes?
Well, it could be that. It could be energy, but I'm thinking of just things that happen that bother us. Things that
the disappointments.
Yeah, it could be disappointments. Okay. It could be especially when you're dealing with other individuals. We don't have control over other people. We don't have control over what they do, what they don't do.
Right.
And a lot of times, and I think we were talking about this before, like our expectations of people, are typically based on, what we think they should be doing, not what they actually can do or what they do.
Right.
So we don't always give people realistic expectations.
Right. Right.
So I think, so the acceptance of the circumstances, basically, the acceptance of what is.
Right. It is what it is.
It is
what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. So I think, and sometimes I think that can be a little freeing, the acceptance. Yeah. Because acceptance allows you to go to the next step, which is action.
Action, solution.
Yeah. So that's the part. Now that can be, because now we started with acknowledgement.
Right.
Acknowledging, all right, look, this is I'm going through some stuff, whatever's happening. So that's kind of where that check-in comes in, because that check-in can bring the insight and the awareness for you to be able to acknowledge what's happening.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then you've got the acceptance. So again, like we said, not always our go-to.
Right.
Acceptance. Because it can be hard to accept circumstances sometimes. A lot of times we want to push against, want to fight against, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the acceptance also that it's not in your control necessarily.
Right. That's true too.
Leads you to the next step, action. So
what you going to do about it?
Right. So the action, and remember, action is a verb.
Right. But let me ask, not to cut you, but just to interject. How long is that space between acceptance and action? I don't know. Something spoke to me.
Well,
I guess for everybody it's different, varied experience or something. But I guess, is it fair to say the closer or the sooner that, I can't even say that because sometimes everything is within your own time.
Right. And it has to do with, who we are as a person. Like, I mean, if I'm someone who's not action oriented, if I'm someone who doesn't take it upon myself to take whatever action, we'll talk about what action really can look like, then it may take me longer because that's not really what I do. If I'm somebody that's more into avoidance.
Got you. Okay.
Because avoidance can also be a response.
Right.
But we'll talk about how that can sometimes make the situation worse.
Right.
So the thing with action is that it may be required for you to respond in a manner so that the circumstances don't continue or get worse. Okay. So that's what I mean by action. It doesn't mean that, okay, if this person, if somebody's in your life and they're not serving you or whatever, that, okay, the action has to be a certain prescribed action.
Right.
The action could be, the action could be like inaction. It could be you're not talking to that person anymore, whatever, which is still a response. Right. Basically what the action is, it's a response to the circumstances. You're not just going to sit back and let whatever's occurring just happen around you.
But the acknowledgement, that you can't get to action unless you pass through the acknowledgement and the acceptance. So it's really true. It's one of the things that I know I say it, but I know other people say it too. You change your mind, you change your life.
Right. Yeah. Because if you accept something, because oftentimes when something is happening, we're just kind of like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. I don't know. Sometimes we really focus on the why is this happening to me? Instead of like, what am I going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Yeah, that's a conversation I have had a lot with folks. Like, the why, we can always why is this occurring? Why is this? Right. Why? Versus what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because that can be a better response because you may never know why somebody is treating you the way they treat you. Right. You may never know why this circumstance or this situation is happening. You may never find that out. So that could be kind of wasted effort in trying to figure out the why versus, well, how am I going to, what am I going to do?
It's funny. I think there's, I know what I try to tell myself, there's a time and a space to ask why or to get into that emotion of, why is this happening? Whatever, but you just can't stay there. And so many people
you don't be there for a second.
You got to be there.
You got to be there for a few minutes. Yeah. I mean, when I say a few minutes, that could be time, weeks, whatever. Absolutely. But you don't want to lean into the why. Right. You can't lean into the why of why something is happening because then that will take away the response time. Right, that will take away because your power can be in your action.
Absolutely.
Your power can be in your response. And a lot of times when we have circumstances or a season that we're in that we feel like things are so outside of our control, getting back our power, our agency, if you will, our ability to be able to assert ourselves, to be able to have some level of autonomy and take things back into where we feel like, okay, I feel like I'm managing this.
I got a grip on this.
Right. That requires action.
It does.
And so that action is really, your response. That could be a change in your mindset. That might be an actual tangible action. It might be, okay, this is something I need to do to make this circumstance different.
Right.
But it still is, it's important.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't do anything,
then you just stay there.
Yeah, you do stay there.
And how
it's very easy to stay there.
Right. And I can only speak from experience that, and I'm sure other people can too or whatever, of knowing something is not right, knowing you need to have action on it, but not making the choice not to do an action.
Right.
So you're making the choice to stay somewhere
right.
where you know.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
It's
not serving you.
It's not serving you.
And that's tough. That's
and the action can be tough. Taking that action, because sometimes that action means making a tough decision. That action can mean doing something that's totally outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
It could mean starting all over again.
Right.
It can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
But I think, when I've had conversations, with clients and folks I consult with in regards to when they've taken the action, once they can get through, because again, it's a season, remember?
Sure,
and so there's going to be some discomfort.
Right.
Once they can, navigate those uncomfortable waters, so to speak.
Right.
They're better for it.
Right.
You've overcome this situation. It's just like in everything. And again, that goes back to everything is temporary.
Right.
So navigating that, making the decision, what have you, that discomfort that you may have, pain that you may have, emotional pain, whatever, it's temporary.
Right.
It is. Now, we're not going to say, okay, it's going to be over in a week.
No.
But if you're navigating it and if you're moving through it, then eventually, at some point, you're going to get to the other side of it. And if you talk to anybody that's been through any kind of adverse situation in their life, yes, they can definitely express to you how it felt usually and what it may have done to them. But in hindsight, a lot of times they will talk about what they have, how they overcame that situation.
Right, the victory.
Right, yes, yes, that they're a survivor of that situation, that they conquered the situation, whatever it is, even if it's, like I said, even if it's a good thing that just took a lot out of them.
Right,
Like you think about going to school, like when people go to college or what have you, it can be very difficult. It's a lot, it's time consuming, it's a lot, especially, I think about a doctoral program. I have, friends of mine that are in doctoral programs now, and it's a lot. Right. It is a lot, and it's time consuming. It takes a lot out of you. And you really have moments where you feel like, why did I even agree? Why did I do this? But then when it's over,
then you have the reflection. So it's almost like
it takes a minute though for that reflection. It does. It takes a second. But when it's over, you're just like, that wasn't
that bad.
That wasn't that bad. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
It's funny because I think when anytime that you try to, I guess, level up, as they say, right? You try to, advance to another dimension. When you're on that pathway of leveling up, you're almost like, you have all these different questions. Is this the right thing? Was this the right thing? Was this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
does anybody want to hear what I'm doing?
Right.
Right. You have all of those.
All these different, right. Yes. You have all these different questions. Yes. But then once you complete it, and then, some times pass, as you talked about, then you're like, okay, I understand it. Yeah. And that's the thing. So
it's like the clouds. The clouds, they clear up. You know what I mean? They clear up. They clear up in the sky. You see the clarity of the sky, and you're like, oh, okay, all right. The storm is over now. Yeah. And I hope that for everyone. Because that storm can be can be a lot. That storm can really be a lot. So we've got the action piece. Okay. So I wanted to add in, because of course, even though this is not necessarily a step, but it can be. Sure. And sometimes our go-to can be avoidance. And so I want to caution our audience against the avoidance piece. Right. Because that can be a more comfortable response for us. And it definitely can be, but it's not a practical one. Right. Most of the time, it's not a practical one to avoid. You can avoid for a little bit of time. And when I mean a little bit of time, I mean like, okay, something happened this morning or whatever that you got to deal with. You can say, you know what? All right, I can't deal with that right now. I got other things I got to take care of.
But it's on the table. It's tabled it.
You better add it to the list. You better put it in your notebook. You better put it somewhere on the dry erase board, wherever you need to put it.
Absolutely.
Because one, especially if it's a situation, it's not going to handle itself.
And it's not going nowhere.
Yeah, it's not going away. It's not going to handle itself. It's going to be right there waiting for you.
That's right.
And we have to be careful because there's the potential for it to get worse. Yeah. All right. So that avoidance piece is, it takes away our ability to have options sometimes. Sure. And that's what we need to focus on. We need to be an active participant in the process of moving through our season.
Right. Knowing and believing that, like you said, the victory is on the other side.
Right. Whatever that victory is.
Whatever it is.
Whatever that victory is.
You will
you're
achieve
come out on
it.
the other side. Right. And I think that sometimes that's the self-talk that we need to have with ourselves. Constantly. Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to come out on the other side of this. I'm going to be stronger. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're really good at telling other people that kind of stuff, but we're not always great at telling ourselves that, of letting ourselves know that, hey, this is a season that I'm in. It's obviously a necessary season.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Dr. Robin, but when when I'm counseling, I tell people straight up, like, listen, I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to myself too.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
we both getting something out the deal.
Right.
You know
sometimes, like this, look, when I put together the notes for this podcast, I was like, what do I need to hear? Because I need to hear this myself.
It's about you, but
but it's okay.
It's okay though.
Because sometimes we need the reminder of things.
Absolutely.
Like I said, we're human. We are working with people all day, every day, counseling folks and that kind of stuff and helping people to navigate through some pretty murky waters.
Yep.
But we also, it's not like we're without, emotions, without adversity.
Our water is murky too.
Yeah, we all have that. We all do. And I think, that's important for our audience to keep that in mind. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of, sort of end with one thing. Okay. And then I have a little announcement I want to make too. But I want to kind of just remind everyone that, think about it this way. Seasons, they don't last forever. So they're temporary, right? No season lasts forever. Seasons will come back through, but they don't last forever. The whole time.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? But they are necessary.
Right.
Because that change is necessary to promote change, but also to promote growth. And for us to continue to be our best selves.
Right.
And to better ourselves, we have to evolve. We can't stay the same. Right. I'm sorry. I know we get comfortable in who we are, but sometimes that change is so necessary for us to just take ourselves to the next level. Right. And that's a good thing.
Yes,
that is a good thing.
Yes, it is.
So before I end, I want to put something out there. So I know that, our audience, if anybody's in like the New Jersey, Delaware, Philadelphia area, you can get an opportunity to meet me. In person, Dr. Robin.
Okay.
I'm going to be at it's the Hey Girl Conference. Okay. Which is happening on May 4th. Okay. It's in Philadelphia. Oh. The website is, I just wanted to, because it's on Instagram and that kind of stuff, but it's Hey Girl, HEYGIRL Conference.
Hey Girl.
So, right. Okay. HeyGirlConference.com is the website.
Good stuff.
Okay. You can go on, you can get a ticket. I am very honored to have been asked I'm moderating a panel discussion, and Infinity Empowerment, which is my company, we will also have a booth there with some goodies.
Oh, good.
Okay. So I really would like for you guys to come out. It's May 4th. All right. That is a Saturday. There's also like a VIP night, which is on the 3rd.
Oh, wow.
I'll be at too. So you can come there. You can meet me there too.
Absolutely.
And so please, if you are coming in and if you're signing up and you're coming to that, please, come by the table and see me and let me know that you heard about it on the show.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited about this opportunity. And you can read all about all the presenters and all the great information. And the theme is permission granted.
I like
that. That is the theme.
I like that.
Yes. And so I thought that was really awesome. I was kind of reading about it in my mind, I was just like, that's the thing. Because a lot of times we need to grant ourselves permission to feel, to be, to do, to, whatever it is. Right. And so I think it's definitely an empowerment focused type of event.
Good stuff.
So definitely HeyGirlConference.com, May 4th. You can go on there, you can get tickets.
Now can the brothers come? Because it says, Hey Girl, I don't know. I mean, I want my permission granted too.
I don't think anybody's going to be turned away. I don't think no one's going to be turned away. Now, if you don't have a ticket.
Then you might be turned
away. Might get turned away. You got to have a ticket now. So this is a ticketed event. This is not a show up and whatever. This is legit. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm certain. I'm sure there will be some men in the room.
Got you.
It's always good to have a male's perspective on things. So we will be definitely coming back to you again. Please, subscribe, like us on YouTube and on Facebook and on Instagram. Let's talk with Dr. Robin. Please send your comments. That type of thing. I always welcome that. And until next time, be well, be great, and by all means, be you. you.